Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining us today for West Valley is Open for Business virtual tours. So we launched this series last year amidst COVID. We wanted to be able to bring projects out to you since you were not able to get out to them. And over the last year, we've featured several amazing projects around the West Valley to show you that the West Valley is still blowing and going and quite productive and alive. So we're excited today to have our friend from the City of Glendale who will talk to us about the great things going on in the City of Glendale. And Mike Hoover is our moderator for this event. So at this point, I will turn it over to Mike Hoover, who is with the City of Surprise, but more importantly to me, he is the co-chair of the WESTMARC Economic Development Committee. Mike.
Hey, thank you, Cintra, and happy Tuesday. Happy early St. Patrick's Day Eve to everybody. We're real excited about the holiday tomorrow, and I'm excited about what's happening in Glendale, not only as a WESTMARC Economic Development co-chair, but as someone who spends a lot of time in Surprise, because Glendale is actually our neighbor and doing a ton of work just to the south of the City of Surprise. It's really benefiting the whole region, not just the community here in the City of Surprise, but really the whole West Valley. And Brian Friedman, I think we met about 10 years ago, and you have been just a force of nature for the past decade. But really, what we're seeing come out to the far west side now in Glendale's planning area is just incredible. And I'm real excited about what the presentation you have, and also a good friend and colleague, Tony Lydon with Jones Lang LaSalle, is going to be assisting in the conversation today, because Tony's had his hand on kind of the pulse of the West Valley for a long time, and has been involved in a lot of this successful growth. So, Brian, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, and just want to thank you for your time this afternoon, and real excited to have this conversation.
Excellent, thank you all, appreciate that. And the introduction, actually, I wanted to say, Mike, exactly the same things that you said, that, we recognize wholeheartedly in Glendale that lots of the, West Valley communities, all of us put together, why we're 1.7 million strong. And that the things that our neighbors, who are fortunate enough being kind of this really irregular sized city, and mostly shaped city, where we're 15 miles long and 15 miles wide, and like a giant backwards L, we end up touching everyone more or less in the West Valley. And so we get a chance to work with you all. We know that, Peoria's done a great job in some of the retail up north, and the things that Surprise and Janine and Mike and their team have done are amazing. Same for Goodyear for testing the market and doing the things that they've done industrially to basically build and improve the marketplace. So we absolutely want a chance to acknowledge that, we're part of an ecosystem and a marketplace, and we appreciate our position in it, and all of, the things that our surrounding cities have done to do that, and then WESTMARC and their lead with Centra have done to help facilitate us all. And then just a quick shout out to the team, because those that know me know that there's absolutely no way I could possibly ever do this myself. So props to the Econ Dev team for their tireless nights and the things they've been doing to try to help, bring Glendale out of, some of the historical lows, and have us all experience the moments that we are now with the revenue flows that we're seeing as a city. And without further ado, the last person I'd like to really thank is Tony Lydon, and as you'll see as part of the presentation, basically he's a mainstay in our office, and a force to be reckoned with. And so with that, I hope the four of us have a great time, and ask away on the questions for Mike, because we want to keep him busy on his duties there.
Great, and Brian, as we move forward through the presentation, just a friendly reminder to all of our participants, you can use the chat box, and I will help facilitate some of the questions that come through the chat box. If you want to challenge Brian to some of the statistics, he loves that, so feel free to do that with Brian today, but please use the chat box for a nice, engaging conversation.
Thank you, and just appreciate WESTMARC again, you guys offering up the opportunity for us today. So with that, can you see the slide on the screens all? Yes, okay, great. Okay, so just a very quick introduction to the City of Glendale. For those that don't know its orientation, you can see that the giant sort of backwards L that I was speaking of. We have several character areas in the city, chiefly four. We'll talk about 3 or 4 of them in the purple squares we'll eventually get to between Tony and I. And then I'd like to go ahead and start in the red square on the Loop 101 with some office space. And we have four different office opportunities that are special note. 3 of the 4 are offered by Ashley Brooks, if you all know that character. Let me get to them. But before I do, I wanted to just, I talked a little earlier about the marketplace in North Glendale, or on the Upper West Side, as we refer to. We've had some real change in the way the marketplace is perceived by end users, and this is something that we've wanted for a long time. We feel great about the fact that the $120,000 household incomes just north of 67th Avenue and the 101 are being recognized by the marketplace, and we're seeing that transition with lots of our earth, coming out of the ground, literally out of the New River, raising that at $6 or $7 a square foot just for the earthwork to welcome BMW, Land Rover, Jaguar, and Volvo. These are sort of things that we have in the past with basically tours where we get asked, well, where do I get my BMW fixed? It has been a big problem for us in perception, and I think for us all in the West Valley. And these small, seemingly small opportunities, it's just another few dealerships, aren't really panning out to be that way. It's just a series of checkbox that we no longer are being eliminated, because we have these options now in the West Valley, and we're really happy to be in this position. I think why more and more we see the locates landing at an increasing ratio. So one of the things that we've noticed in our area is that when we do have something come available in this area of North Glendale or Arrowhead, that it's what's taking its place. For example, the Rock Bottom that is now Barrio Queen, or the Portillo's that's now in place. We're seeing this transition of the types of kitschy things that typically were reserved for the East Valley are now clamoring to get into the West Valley. And I hope for all of us, it's a point of pride. It's just one more reason for the 1.7 million people that live in the West Valley not to ever have to go to the East Valley, from casinos to dealerships to kitschy places to enjoy a meal. We really appreciate the changing landscapes. And then back to the office, around the Glendale and Loop 101 area. This particular property was an original Opus building. I remember it from 2004, 2005 on the construction side of the house. It's been full for most of its tenure, or near full. We now have a couple opportunities with a 26,000 square foot space and a 16,000 square foot space in this building. Another building that we have, it's been listed on CoStar for a bit, but truly it's actually for lease now, and it has some time frames that are reasonable. Ashley Brooks is the broker for the office side for these last 2 buildings. This one's 75,000 square feet. It is home to Alaska Federal Credit Union. It's their building. They have several buildings in the Telavi Park, but they are choosing now to lease out the 75,000 square feet on the first floor of this building. It's pretty exceptionally built out on the second floor, and they are aggressive in looking for opportunities in this particular building. The adjacent building next to Alaska Federal Credit Union is in Telavi Boulevard as well. There's 35,000 square feet here. One of the signature things about this particular development, the reason why it does lease up pretty quickly and generally stays leased, is the center at 59th and Bell. There's daycare, there's Sprouts, there's Walmart, there's a handful of restaurants, grocery stores. There's everything in its immediate walkable vicinity. So these are the primary 3 buildings in the north area of Glendale that we currently have availability. And then the one significant building in the Westgate area is a recent lease that was basically made available through Terminix was in this space, and they have a sublease through 2024. It's 32,000 square feet. They're extremely motivated at $17 a square foot due to the sublease category. So if you have any clients or anyone interested in this space, I know they were looking to move the property quick, and it's right near or below Centra. So if you want to be Centra's neighbor, this is the place for you. And then Mr. Hoover, I didn't know if they had any questions from the panel. I went through pretty quickly.
Brian,
Yes.
I will say it's a fabulous neighborhood with a lot of great restaurants. Great place to be.
Thank you for the plug, Sandra.
So Brian, you did a good job identifying some of the available office. Has there been any conversation that you've been able to glean about kind of the new office kind of profile? Is there going to have they done anything proactively to try to address kind of what the new office life kind of looks like? What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, we're seeing, prospects talk about that and kind of how to manage the open spaces versus office spaces and cubes versus small wall versus large wall cubes. We're part of those conversations. It's interesting to watch that play out as they figure out who really does need an office presence and who can stay home. In the case of Terminex, it's because they thought they could do it from home. So, and the employees appreciated it. And other companies are reshoring and really needing space. They're just trying to figure out how to manage the bullpen, as it were, and how to function in the office space. So I think the jury is still out on that, which is why we haven't seen this move more quickly than we have. Normally, something like this would be taken pretty quickly. So I think it's due to the fact that we're just coming out of this whole thing, and they'll figure it out shortly in each company's best interest.
Yeah, I think as much as we can be proactive, it's going to be kind of the reaction to reality. And like you said, they're probably learning as they go as well. One last question about the luxury dealerships. So was BMW the first one to come in?
I'm sorry, Mike, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, it's okay. Was BMW the first luxury dealership to come in?
Well, I suppose in 2008, I was actually the project manager for the Cadillac dealership. So the Cadillac on Bell, just north there, was probably the first for Glendale, at least since the change of the millennium. And then BMW was the first up on the outer edge of the conical around the Union Hills, the Beardsley Loop 101 exchange. BMW is first. That's been open for about a year.
So are all those dealership pads full now? Now you have all three up in that area that have been announced or under construction?
Well, my official answer is yes. But there is a facility there that is a paint auto luxury collision center, and that probably could be enhanced. And so we hope to continue the lineup of luxury dealerships in the future. That's at least the city's interest, and we attempt to partner with everyone pretty directly. If there's opportunities, we'd like to figure that out. Just like adjacent to Cadillac there on Bell Road in the Loop 101, there's an opportunity for some land there. So we're working with that parcel and primarily, and that's pretty much what we have left. Most all of Arrowhead is completely built out, with the exception of some property just north of the hospital at 67th and Union Hills, and then of course all the stuff that Dr. Geppinger controls at the University at Midwestern. But she's got plans for all of that, so there's really not a lot left. We are seeing the rest of the riverbed, all the things along between Pure's line there with Arrowhead, Honda, and Bell in the Loop 101. We are expecting 400 units to come out of the ground there that's going through Cloma right now. And so they'll do the same thing and raise the property just like BMW and Rover, Jag, Volvo have done as well. Just because people really want to be in the area, it's got a high demographic, lots of retail and quality of life amenities. It's easy for folks to get on and off the freeway. So we're happy to see the notion of infill. Glendale's paying a lot of attention to maximizing its remaining property and infill of all sorts to try to help with the infrastructure investments that are already in place and maximize the payroll that's floating in and around the region.
The great update on the dealerships, and I didn't realize you guys were that close to capacity in that area. That's wonderful.
Mike, before we leave the discussion of the dealerships, I do agree. I think that's such a strong statement about the demographic change in the West Valley. And 2 years ago, when BMW first opened, I think they've been open a little bit more than that. But anyway, about 2 years ago, we had them as part of our golf tournament as a hole-in-one sponsor. And the intent was to show that, in fact, the West Valley has that changing demographic, that higher household income, those 6 figures that you're talking about, and it's out here and it's invested here. So we're definitely in sync. I think when we see a lot of those luxury dealerships along the Loop 101, we can definitely tell that things have changed in the West Valley.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and for sure. And it's just very different when you send them sort of the Regis report and you drop a pin at 67th and 101 just north, and it comes out at 120,000 square feet. And you do the same thing in the East Valley around the Chandler Mall, for example, and it's many tens of thousands less. They're rather shocked. And so it does shorten the conversation and makes things a bit easier because there's no longer any salesmanship. It's just a matter of mathematical facts. And then, so I didn't know, Mike, if there's any questions on this section or if we could just go ahead.
Yeah, those are the two follow-up questions we had for this section. Looking forward to part 2.
Okay. Sounds here to get through it. Perfect. Okay. So this is sort of the Tony and I's area here to kind of, Tony, feel free at any time to jump in and enjoy this with me here. You're a big part of it. So the story goes, and I remember Mike Hoover saying, what are you guys going to do? This is about 10 years ago. What are you guys going to do with the whole 5 square mile, 5 linear miles of freeway frontage on the Loop 303? And we said, well, still thinking about that, still working with management and council to kind of decide what to do with this MPA. And about mid-16 through December 10th of 2018, we met with council on several retreats, many hours long, talking about all the economics of municipal boundaries and what things cost and what they deliver, working with Sarah Murley with Applied Economics on many studies that really look at land use and the protection of Luke Air Force Base and utilities, in this case, all served by EPCOR and other private utility corporations through the use of our 208 permit, and how we council on behalf of the public wanted to treat this area. And on December 10th, 2018, they gave us the green light to go ahead and begin to welcome industrial end users. And so that was pretty much the start of 2019. This map is dated May 28th, 2019. By May 28th, we had 15 projects or more en route. We had the serendipitous locate of project number 17, which is the Red Bull, Rao, and Ball factory right on the border of Surprise. And we had asked them to consider that property because we needed to energize the 5-mile route with a 6.5-mile long sewer line. And being the good partners that they are, they agreed to do that with EPCOR and create an agreement, which basically, since we had water in the region, powered our sewer on the east-hand side of the Loop 303. And then over on the west side of the Loop 101, we were missing the water line. And Barclay was kind enough, they were instrumental on that side of the freeway. They were the first out. They'd been interested for a long time. And Randy Huggins and I, if folks know him, ended up at their offices at 24th and Camelback. And we're very appreciative for working with EPCOR and putting in the water line that energized the west side of the Loop 303 at the very beginning of this. And so some of the blue things that you see, not all of this, for example, item number 2 and 3, those are still in the county. The vast majority is coming into the city of Glendale by annexation. And although they're choosing to do that, some of the properties through a annexation development agreement, around 30 of them are obligated to do that, at least give our council a chance for a first right of refusal. The balance of them are electively choosing at this point to come into the county if they're industrial by and large, even though we are slightly more expensive than the county option. The residential portions, unless it's zoned already, we have made it clear that that's something that we are not interested in as a community in general terms, and would much prefer the commercial industrial options to preserve and protect Luke. So that gives you kind of a foundation of, and by the way, unfortunately for me, I was wrong, very wrong on the right side of wrong, if there's such a thing, because council had made an ask of me on December 10th of 2018, how many square feet do you think we might be likely to see based on kind of how things have gone for Goodyear and for Surprise to the north? What does that sort of look like when we're waiting for, we don't have sewer on the right-hand side where the sewer line extension is, we're missing some water. We really didn't have any, projects that are absolutely, that we knew that were coming that would work with EPCOR, that would put in this amount of capital infrastructure. So we said in the first 5 years, about 5 million square feet. And as Tony will get done explaining to you very shortly, and as we've experienced, that happened in the first year that we had the ability to sort of flush and brush with the sewer and water lines that were here. So I was very wrong in the very best way possible in terms of the interest in the marketplace and kind of what we've experienced. So Tony, I didn't know if you had wanted to say something about this slide or if I should go on to the next and you'll save your stuff for the rest.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead to the next one. Thanks, Brian.
Okay. So fast forward from May 28th, 2019 to this map to 11/28, just at near the end of last year, 4 or 5 months ago. This map here is sort of what we can share publicly, is what's transpired in Glendale. So again, the residential's in blue, the industrial's in yellow, and we went through and sort of tried for illustration purposes to give you an idea of really the volume of transactions that are happening. So up in the Peoria Reams area by Project 36, sorry, I don't know why we moved it from 17 to 36, but we renumbered and that's its new number. It's still Red Bull Row and Ball. 37 is Ball Plant that supplies the cans directly into the building for Red Bull. 39 is their distribution center, then where the product leaves the shop, and 40 is White Claw. And then 41 is the new SRP electric substation. So to give you an idea, those buildings are already either 3 of the 4 are complete, and then number 39 is under construction. So we have what 10 or so buildings that are already out under completed or under construction that you can visit. And those are the red circles that you see on the map. The next set of shapes there is the square. And in the next 12 months, we expect about 10 to 12 more large industrial buildings to break ground and be under construction, or already are. Then when you look at the green arrows, our pipeline is 12 to 24 months. So we have another 10 or 12 projects that are in design review, construction drawings that we know are coming, that are in-house, and that will break ground shortly in the 12-month to 24-month timeline. And then sometimes even faster than the green arrows are the red arrows with the annexations in pipeline, and there are 6 or so that on the map here that are public, that are already in process. And those, depending on what they are, can happen very quickly. For example, under the number 40 on the map, up top there, Peoria and Reams area, that's the White Claw building. We met them on October 7th, physically for the first time, out on the site. And then on October of 2019. On October 5th of 2020, they were open, had a TCO, and were brewing with their staff employed in 363 days from the first time we said hello to them. And that was the very fastest we have ever done a project with anyone. Quite candidly, when we met with them, I told them I didn't know how to do it that fast. I know how to do it in 2 months longer than that, but not in that time frame. And they were kind enough to show me technically, how to produce this 8 weeks faster than the Conair building, with 1.2 million square feet, was produced in the Glendale Air Park. So, where there is a will, there is a way. And I really appreciate, all the things that those particular international companies did for us as a community, have done for us in terms of brand and marketing, and their willingness to help us, relentlessly, including the 6.5 mile sewer line. These are things they didn't have to do. They did it out of liking and out of partnership, and they really have kind of supercharged a whole area of our community that does nothing but return dollars to the general fund so that we can serve the citizens of Glendale. And then, so what you're looking at here is what we can share publicly, but the truth of the matter, it's probably nearly, as you'll see with Tony, nearly a third to a half more than what we're showing here is actually en route. And so we hope that at this point in 5 years or so, Tony will give you some stats on that. It's just going to make me look more and more wrong based on what I told council about how fast this area was going to develop. And then moving on to the next one, I'd like to introduce my my pal Tony Lydon, who pretty much is the mainstay out there. I think he sleeps out on the 303 and just combs his hair, puts a new jacket on, and just starts giving more tours. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tony.
Brian, thank you so much. It's a pleasure and a thrill to be here with you and Sintra and Mike Hoover, and obviously the WESTMARC stakeholder group. So it's an incredible new day for the West Valley, and specifically for the city of Glendale. If you go on to the first slide there, I mean, it's clearly the West Valley and the city of Glendale is no longer a provincial marketplace. The corporate employers and the occupants that are looking at and committing to spaces in the greater Glendale area are true global supply chain industry. So it's very exciting to participate in that reality. Key drivers on how we got here, you touched on the infrastructure and workforce are probably the top 2 boxes to check if you're a corporate employer considering our region and considering a market like Glendale. You talked about the water, sewer, electric infrastructure and partnerships that had to be made and commitments made in order to deliver those critical pieces of the development process. We're looking at an aerial here right now. You can see Loop 303 on the left. That's a key infrastructure capital commitment, as well as the new Northern Parkway, which is about 75–80% complete. Those projects really underscore the collaboration between, key stakeholders like MAG and the various cities in the region, City of Glendale, City of Surprise, the City of Peoria, El Mirage, and others. Very critical, and we think that this new Northern Parkway is a game changer. As many of you know, this is designed as a, quote, I-10 reliever, and it effectively unlocks the workforce in Central Phoenix and Central Glendale, in Peoria, Surprise, El Mirage, and other markets in the Central and West Valley. So a big deal there. Our guidance is today there's roughly 15–16 million square feet within what we call the Loop 303 submarket. And our guidance is we're going to grow that to 50–60 million square feet within the next 3 to 5 years. And so the key drivers, again, are infrastructure and then demographic growth. We'll talk about the demographic growth in just a minute. The next slide you can see just highlights some of the projects that the JLL team is working on in Glendale right now. We've got 9 new projects. That represents roughly just phase 1 development, about 5 million square feet of space. That's roughly a $750 million capital expenditure in plant, and we think equipment with the relatively high capital expenditure inside the boxes that the corporations are spending. They spend $100, $200, $300 a foot inside the box, depending on what they're doing. And I might also add that 8 out of the 9 development teams on this list are out-of-market developers. The only local developer on this list is Merit with First Industrial, and that's project number 1, Camelback 303. So these are out-of-market, very sophisticated national developers that could develop anywhere, and they chose the City of Glendale to put the roots down and make their capital investments. Let's see, so just some of the, next slide will show just some of these projects. The 303 project logistics, that's a Barclay project that Brian had touched on before. That's a 350,000 foot cross dock located on the corner, southwest corner of Glendale and Loop 303. That will deliver May 1st. Kentwood 303 in the lower right-hand corner, that is under construction at Saraville and Cotton Lane. Essentially, these facilities can offer space solutions as small as 15,000 feet. Next slide. And as large as 1.2 million feet. This is called the Cubes, is the project name here. This is Clayco Realty Group out of Chicago. They will break ground in April on a 1.2 million square foot inventory spec building. Again, these are very sophisticated, very expensive, with scale projects, and they represent the region's, next step into a true global supply chain. GO3 is a Heinz project. That building is complete, and that has tremendous activity on it. It sits on a land site that will allow it to double in size if need be. And then finally, the Cold Summit is the first, go back one slide, Brian, is the first speculative cold storage freezer building in Arizona. It's a 350,000 foot, 52 foot clear, rail capable, being designed with freezer cooler users in mind. We're very excited about this offering. We have incredible activity on it before we break ground within the next 45 to 60 days. Next slide. And then this is perhaps the granddaddy of them all. I mentioned Merit Partners and First Industrial. Merit and First Industrial have been investing along the Loop 303 corridor for the last 15 years. This is a 550-acre project that enjoys visibility on 303 and sits in between 2 full diamond interchanges. We have tremendous activity on this, and we will begin a site improvement program later this summer. And then this is a Luke Landing. This is a planned development that hasn't broken ground yet on the northwest corner of Glendale and 303. So the vertical markets, just in summary, include data centers. Arizona's a big winner in the manufacturing reshoring game. Food processing is a very active vertical market. The healthcare industry, obviously, e-commerce, where we're now approaching 25%, a little less than 25% of retail sales now are in e-commerce, and then traditional distribution and cold storage. So the buildings themselves are very attractive. They tend to have a significant amount of parking because the higher level of occupancy now actually requires many skilled workers. And then, of course, there's much more energy delivered to these buildings because of the high value activities inside the box. And many of them also enjoy a higher clear height. So that's a quick summary. If there's any questions, happy to respond.
Hey, Tony, a quick question. When we see that much industrial coming into the region, how would you compare this to maybe a generation ago of the type of boxes? You started talking about the need for automation and the technology, but these are beautiful facilities. It seems like the aesthetic has become almost as important as just the functionality. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it's really critical for the occupant to be successful, not a recruitment, but retention of that qualified workforce. There's a lot of competition for that. So they've elevated that design and the feel and the environment. And then again, to the, back in the day, 15, 20, 25 years ago, it's a fraction of what's now being spent inside the facility as it relates to sophisticated equipment. That could be artificial intelligence, robotic activity, various processes. Many times it's a precision type of activity. So it requires a higher level of skill, and it's obviously a much different environment than it was in the old days.
So again, thank you for that. So again, you touched on a lot of projects that are coming in. What inning are we in with activity? Is this going to satisfy kind of the need, or is the reshoring and the general good economy going to require more development similar to this in these areas? What are you seeing?
Yeah, we think this is, the new normal for the next 3 to 5 years, quite frankly. There's an incredible amount of capital in the market. We enjoy proximity to the ports of LA and Long Beach. We enjoy proximity to Mexico, who's our number one trading partner. We have dynamic demographic growth that we'll see in just a moment. Our state has reasonable regulation to it. For better or for worse, we're a red state, and the red states are winning the economic development game right now. We enjoy the nation's largest nuclear power plant that affords our energy-centric operators a reliable, reasonably priced energy. And so, and then you look at Governor Ducey and what his team has done over the last 6 years in eliminating 1,300 state regulations. And corporate CEOs, CFOs, VP of Finance, risk managers, they track all of these things. And so that's really put Arizona in a position to win.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And then when transitioning to the residential growth, I don't know if this is a good transition, but I've asked different economists, some that really focus a lot on residential growth and some that are just tracking the general health of the economy, and they've all said on the residential side, this run is another 2 to 3 years. And I think what you're going to be showing in the next slides coming up is kind of what that looks like. But I'm really encouraged that you see that also on the manufacturing logistics side, because I think that we have to have that local employment, we have to have that corporate investment. So to have both is really, again, another statement for where the West Valley is really going.
Yeah, the West Valley's target from an occupant employer standpoint is a energy-centric, workforce-centric type operator, and that's where we really shine. And quite frankly, our numbers show us that roughly 60% of all the affordable residential housing developments going to occur in the West Valley, and the corporate occupants and corporate employers love to hear that. That's a really high need factor for them, and that's a qualified workforce.
Right. Yeah, and it's that balance. over the last 20 years. Again, what we're seeing with kind of the executive housing coming in, but also being able to supply people to be able to actually live in the West Valley who have those types of positions. So I really appreciate that kind of 360 perspective on what it means for these communities.
You bet.
Tony, can you repeat that that stat that you just described about the workforce? Number one for me, but number two is I really think that that's an important kind of a exclamation mark that is really defining the West Valley today.
Yeah, so again, 60% of all the affordable housing starts are going to occur in the West Valley. And, you know, obviously with the sustained, robust in-migration from California, state of Washington, places like that, many of those folks, especially Californians, would rather live, work, and play in the West Valley because they maintain social, family, and business relationships in California. Mm-hmm. And so it's a slide we'll see in a minute, but it's one we use regularly with our corporate occupant and developer teams. And it's a key driver for the employers.
Perfect. Okay, and I snuck something on you, Mike. I just wanted to share quickly about this mid-level product and kind of what's happened in the Glendale Air Park, which has been around for a very, very long time. And this slide you're looking at is February of 2019. And these are the 15-ish sites that were open, available on the market for sale in Feb of 19. This next picture of the air park is February of 2020. 14 of the 15 sold, and 9 projects came out of the ground, are completed or just under construction now, all 9 of them. And they've got their names up here. LG's done 4 of them at one time. And so what we're seeing in our marketplace is not just the confidence in the marketplace, but we won't do 1 or 2, we'll do a handful of them. I think like Tony mentioned, Kevin Zerwinski is out here in handfuls doing projects on the 303. So we're no longer really needing to work too hard for the opportunity to welcome them to our community, or I'm sure to the balance of all these West Valley cities who are prospering in the same light. It's a very different ballgame than it was a decade ago, as Mike had mentioned. You know, it was very different 10 years ago. And I think this combination of slides of 1 year of 15 properties for sale, 1 left, a portion of 1 left, I should say, because Copper Wing extended to the west there where that also sold. So only a portion of 1 property was left. And I think that just speaks volumes of, you know, how the whole region, the area, and the amount of construction that we've experienced from a sales tax collection experience has been in one area 14 times greater than it was 2 years ago. And so when we as a city are prospering on behalf of our citizens, and, you know, like we say, thank all of our partners like Tony and the folks that are out there in these industries, the same engineers, the same economists, the same sort of site selectors. It's a very small family of developers, contractors that are doing all of this. And what you are all doing out there, if you're listening, you have built a system that speaks for itself. And now all we're hearing is, we'll definitely, as long as you agree to do exactly what you did for, you know, company A, B, C, or D, we will come. And so I wanted to, you know, publicly thank everyone for the opportunity to serve and for what you did for the trust and confidence, because it's a very, very different ball game. I assume this is sort of more what the East Valley experiences on historically on a daily basis. Well, we are now also in the West Valley, that our success is beginning more success collectively on behalf of all West Valley cities. And I would expect more of the same, and not just in logistics, as we'll see in the next couple slides. So this one I'll share with Tony, kind of back and forth, Tony. So to talk about the green section first, the City of Glendale really hasn't historically focused much on residential. We do care a lot about infill residential to make good use of the capital infrastructure, to make sure that people, payroll, state shared revenue happens as a result, but it's not something that we're actively looking to zone, except for if it's high density multifamily. And I'll explain kind of the difference between the two. So the map you're looking at is 5,700 units or homes under construction in just the Westgate area. And so those in green are the single family. The large number 26 is Stonehaven, that's the Pulte and Lennar development. And then the balance are sort of these infill developments. And I think, Tony, I wanted to turn it over to you to talk a little about this next slide here.
Yeah, so this slide shows a metropolitan Phoenix affordable housing subdivisions, either under construction or planned. as you can see, the vast majority, the preponderance of these subdivisions are populating the beautiful West Valley. And so that's what corporate America likes to see for all kinds of different advanced manufacturing, assembly, manufacturing types of positions. It's interesting. So affordable housing on this slide's defined as under 300,000 feet. Based on our market realities over the last 12 months to 18 months, it's probably now $350,000 affordable housing. But the reality is that you can see they're up and down Loop 303. And this is the future of the valley in many respects, with the number of people that are, putting down the roots and just really enjoying having the ability to live, work, and play in the West Valley and not having to drive, eastward into the sun and back in the afternoon. So really exciting slide. It substantiates the reality that the vast majority of really good modern subdivisions, and this is about 100 to 110 subdivisions we're looking at, are all part of the rise of the West Valley.
Thank you, Tony. So then just flipping back to this slide here, what I wanted to concentrate a little bit on is this notion of somehow that the East Valley isn't populated with all of our talent and isn't populated with the human beings that are all of anything, if not equal at any measure, what exists in the East Valley. There is this definite sort of perception that we aren't full service, that it would be very difficult for us to garner the types of luxury residential 4, 5, 6-story towered housing with elevator service, because there aren't the types of jobs here that warrant the salaries, and we don't have the education base to support that, and we don't have we've heard this for a long time, and all of these things one by one we have collectively in the West Valley picked off, and we are picking up speed on all of these areas, including the luxury dealerships and now luxury multifamily living, which was sort of one last standard that we didn't have in mass in the West Valley. And I'm happy to report that these are things that Glendale has absolutely insisted on. If you want to be out here and you want to be part of our community, we expect 4-story or greater multifamily at all places that warrant it. And we feel that our community deserves that. We feel that we know how cities make money. We know the economics of a city and what density looks like and what payroll looks like and why we would want to have density here to support the 50 restaurants that are in this region, and the amount of shopping just with Cabela's and Tanger and Westgate and other venues that are here, not to mention the casino and the entertainment options, Topgolf, Dave & Buster's, etc. We need as many people in this area as possible. You get one shot to do this. And so we've been very direct with them. This is not a passive experience for us. We sit and we partner with our developers, and we explain why. We show them reports, we show them what's in it for us, how can we help you, and then we listen and try to earn their business. And so glad to report that it's a little bit confusing on some of these maps, but basically there are 7 3 and most are 6 4-story multifamily developments for about 2,500 units that are under construction in Glendale. 3 of them already coming out of the ground, 1 next week at 91st in Glendale. And I'll give you an idea of kind of what this looks like. You can see the general locations. Here's one. This is just below the south of the stadium and just north of Walmart. Here's another, and this is just north of Walt Brown's Zanjero, now called Enfuego development, just north of Westgate, just to the east of Cabela's. And here's another development that's underway that has the staircases are in the tower. And then this, just to give you an idea, is sort of what the expectation is for us relative to density and to walkability and to shopping. And you can go to a hotel and house folks just across there's 5 hotels that are adjacent to this development. There are literally 5 right in Zanjero at this point. There are another 5 of them in Westgate for a total of 10, and then there's one Holiday Inn Express that's just north of Topgolf, plus the Clarion just south. So that's a full dozen hotels just in the greater sports and entertainment district. And this is sort of the image for us that we're looking for, and density, that is a minimum density, and we're getting it. And the same for Glendale and 91st on that corner, the same south of the stadium, and we expect the same for the west side of the freeway, which really is in the Vision 4 properties just north of Topgolf, between the river up to up to Northern by the casino. We expect that to be the other half of what is basically forming to be, because of the skyline. There are really only sort of 3 major skylines, and that's downtown Phoenix, Tempe, and Glendale. And we would like to see the height come about with towers at the casino and more larger buildings that we're aware of that are coming south of the casino. We really would like to turn this into the most dense skyline that we possibly can. We have the infrastructure, we have the sewer and water capacity, we have the freeway systems. There's no reason, you get one shot at this, to keep creating a community that we can all be proud of here in the West Valley. And I think with that, with a few minutes left, I'd like to turn it back over to any questions that you all have, and just thank you once again on behalf of myself and Tony, my partner in crime out on the 303 and other places, and Mike in the adjacent community and Central in all ways. Thanks for the time today to share.
Brian, thank you. Tony, thank you. I do have some follow-ups, some of it that we've been collecting kind of along the way here. So real quick question, what is the development that's going on south of Topgolf along the 101?
Oh, so south of Topgolf on the Loop 101. So there are a couple. Some, it gets a little confusing because Glendale, the way the zip codes work, our zip codes extend farther north than our municipal boundaries. So we go all the way over to pretty much Pinnacle Peak and I-17 with the 85310 zip code, and 85307, also Glendale, goes into the city of Phoenix a bit on that would be the west side of 99th Avenue. So that's Kathy Thuringer's industrial campus there. So most think it was, and it was in the paper today as Glendale's welcoming the Cavco homes, and we are welcoming their employees to shop and house their corporate functions and everything else in Westgate, but it's legitimately in the city of Phoenix. And so all of that activity you see on the other side of 99th, south of Bethany Home or Cardinals Way, that is in the city of Phoenix, that sort of 300 acres-ish area. And then south of the stadium in our area on the east side of the freeway, the Lagoons project is shortly to be underway. Lori German in our office, our PIO, is working feverishly with our partners to explain the next phase of who's coming as part of that very significant project. I think for all of us in the West Valley, it's a game changer on the entertainment side and the outdoor recreation. And so we expect that announcement at the end of the month, and then them to be under construction end of next month. And so we're holding off on saying anything there just until we have the green light from the partners.
Well, that's wonderful. All right, I got a couple more for you, Brian. Thanks for the clarification on that. So this one's actually near and dear to me, but this one came in. Any idea what the Panera at 67th and 101 will become?
No, I actually don't know that one. I have not fielded in personally any questions on that one. So sorry, Mike, but I will ask around to the talented team that's got their nose to beat that one for the grindstone.
Oh, thank you. All right, got a couple more. So a shout out from Upper West Side Phoenix. They love Glendale economic development. And one of our participants asked for the addresses of the spaces that you mentioned in the first part of the presentation. So we'll follow up with her through email. But I want to thank you. This is really comprehensive as far as, if you think again how much Glendale's, how far west and how far north Glendale actually stretches. It's several cities in one city, and you're also impacting a lot of other cities along the way. And just again, the work you guys are doing is just fantastic. All right, so Sintra, if there's no other questions, I just have one last question for both of our participants. Okay, so as we head into 2023 Super Bowl, what is the experience that people from outside of the state of Arizona are going to have at Westgate for the 20? In one word, what will that experience be? I'll start with you, Brian.
Memorable.
All right, Tony.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. They feel like they've died and gone to heaven when they come out here. East Coast and Midwest people.
I will just say, outside of my one word, my mandate, that what you experienced in 15 will be nothing like what you experience in 23. And that is something that in terms of the built environment, we think will be very different. The way the blimp looks at and sees this region, which we really do consider on behalf of the West Valley, a bit presumptuous, but we consider it sort of the downtown core, the building, central core of the West Valley. We're proud to be home to the West Valley in that fashion, where this, skyline represents who we are as 1.7 million people. I think, us being transcendent with the way we look at ourselves and how realistic, how fluid things are between our cities. How people absolutely don't care. They can't tell when they pass one boundary to the next. All they know is here's where this good eatery is, and here's where this good place to work is, and here's where this fun place to go is. And we sell the West Valley as a whole. We are active at Outthinking, Surprise, and Goodyear in the media for proving the market. For folks like Tony, we mention everyone by name on purpose, that together we are much stronger. And individualism would not serve us well at all in Glendale at 260,000 inhabitants, but 1.7 million sure does.
Absolutely. Stronger together for sure. Well, Brian, Tony, thank you. Centra, I'll turn it over to you for any final thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So thanks, Brian and Tony, for being here and just giving us such a comprehensive look at what's going on in Glendale. I want to mention a couple of things that's coming up. We launched 2 new series this year that really takes off on growth. We have the West Valley Hot Topics, and that is sponsored by the series sponsor is SRP. That on March 24th, which is next week, we will drill further into what's happening along the freeways. So you got a really strong look at what's happening along the Loop 303 in the Glendale area, but this will broaden it out to all of Loop 303 as well as what's happening in Peoria and Surprise. And then again, the same thing for the loops 101, 202, 303, I-10 corridor, and I-17. So join us. Go ahead and register on our website. It's West Valley Hot Topics, and it's March 24th. We've got great speakers lined up. Kevin Phelps with the City of Glendale, Allison Griggs with the Arizona Manufacturers Council, Chris Mackey with the City of Phoenix, and Courtney Opog, CEO for Banner Astoria Hospital. So we're excited about that. One other series that we have that we launched this year is called West Valley Industry Spotlight, and we're fortunate to have ASU as our series sponsor for that. And every other month, each segment, we will be focusing on a different industry in the West Valley. And Tony hit on it really throughout his presentation is workforce, workforce, workforce. That is what we have we have the strength in our workforce in all of these key industries that we're targeting. And so on April 6th, we'll be focusing on the healthcare industry. So join us to learn more about that. And then finally, I want to just let you know that our economic development, our annual summit, is coming up on May 11th. And a lot of what we talked about today really transcends into that dialogue. So we talked about the office product and the office environment. Where is that going, and what are some of the unknowns? You'll really start to learn more about that from HR professionals, from emerging industries that we have in the West Valley over the last year at Plus, and then also some specific sites. If you were impressed with the sites that you saw, which I clearly was, imagine seeing sites all over the West Valley. So make sure you go on our website, westmarc.org, and sign up for the Economic Development Summit. I would like to thank you all again for being here today and joining us. That we're definitely growing not only the numbers in this series, but the target market that we're trying to reach, which is the development community and the brokers out there. So appreciate your time today, and that's all for me. Thank you from WESTMARC.
Thank you, Centra.
Brian had something.
Brian, are you on mute?
You're muted, Brian.
I was saying I had one job from Lori, our PR. Make sure you follow us at Grow Glendale, because this is where people can get the latest information, follow all the things that Tony's doing and where things are at, the latest in announcements, tracking who's coming in all of these buildings at the 27 we expect in the next 24 months, and who's calling home, so that you can hopefully provide services to them, furniture, to any of the sundry services they're all going to need. If you follow us at glendale.com, you'll have the latest information. Lori German in our office puts that out. And thank you for letting me say that, Centra. I would have been annihilated for my one thing that I needed to say for all the help she did putting this together, and I didn't do it. I would have died. So shameless plug.
Well, that's okay, because I forgot to mention that this recording will be on our website on our West Valley Open for Business page. So if you want to capture different parts of it, feel free to go on our website. If you want to share it with others that were not able to make it today, please go ahead and share it with others. So thanks again. I think we have it all now, right, Brian?
Yes, thank you. Tony, thank you, Centra, and thank you, Mike.
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
All right,
Centra.
awesome.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.